Hello guys and welcome back. Today I am doing my top 5 of 2023 video series and I'm doing them by category. Today it's going to be eyeshadow palettes. Now the way I decided to do this year is to focus on the products that I've tried in 2023 and not my all-time favorite products. I can do a separate video on my top 3 in each category if you're interested in that, but I really wanted to kind of look at the year that just passed and kind of see what were the products that I thought were amazing releases or the ones that I've tried that I thought were incredible. Another little disclaimer is that I don't wear a ton of eye products, and if I do, it's mostly single eyeshadows. So you'll see that the top 5 eyeshadow palettes that I picked are kind of similar and maybe a little boring for many of you, but they're just what I wear. And I just wanted to be honest and just share my personal choice and what I've enjoyed. So I hope you guys will enjoy it. Get yourself something to drink and let's dive in. So in 2023, I think I've tried 18 eyeshadow palettes. I'm pretty sure. And it was very easy to reduce it to the top 7, but from there it was very hard for me to kind of figure out which are the top 5 that I truly love and I've used a lot. And I think this is where it was hard because, for example, the Patrick Ta eyeshadow palette, I've only picked it up about a month ago. So I've been playing with it for a month and absolutely love it, but I haven't used it all year long. So I've decided to actually not include this one, not because it's not great, and I can absolutely see myself using this a lot next year, but it's just not been the one that I've been reaching for over and over again. But I do want to mention it because it's incredible. It's a good basic eyeshadow palette. I've actually waited quite a long time to pick this up after they released it, just because I felt like I have these eyeshadows over and over again, but I think the shades of the cool tones right here is what is very special in my opinion, and I really like it. The creams are incredible, just an amazing palette, but I did include this one on my top 5 because I haven't used it as much as the other ones. And then another palette that I did want to mention is this one from Nars. This was my, the top 7 that I couldn't decide. And the reason I decided to kind of pull this out of my top 5 is that I don't think it's available anymore. And I think I tried it in 2022, not 2023 first, or I could be mistaken. I'm not sure. I think this was released in 2022 and I picked it up in 2023, but I've used this palette a lot. What's the name of it? This is the Nars Orgasm Rising, and I think it's an incredible eyeshadow palette, but I think it's discontinued. I think I couldn't find it at Sephora. Okay, let's start with my top 5 now. I had to put those disclaimers, and I'm proud that I've only put 2 of them out of, other ones that I really enjoyed. I'm going to start off my number 5 with the new Huda Beauty Grunge palette. I almost didn't pick this one up. I just picked it up because a lot of you guys wanted to see a review on it, and I'm so glad I did, because I think this is my favorite palette that she released. I love these tones. I love the mattes in here. I love that there's so many different textures, and it's just a beautiful palette. I truly think I love everything about it. I would have loved to see a more cream eyeshadow, like a lighter. You have this one right here, which is called Heroin. I can never say that right. And that is just a little bit too peachy to brighten up my inner corner, things like that. So I wish there was a matte that was just a little bit lighter. But besides that, I think it's an incredible palette, such a good quality and very innovative with the formula. This color right here, it is so unique and intense, and it has so many different tones in it and shifts. It's very, very intense and crumbly. You kind of have to be careful with this, but you know what? I'm just gonna add a little bit of this right here in the center. Look at that. It just makes every eye look so much more intense. I was actually debating to put something on top. This is a one and done eyeshadow palette, by the way, what I'm wearing today. It's from Trini London. I don't even know the name of it. Chalise, I think. That was sent to me and I was kind of testing it out today. But I was like, I want a sparkle right in the center. So this is the time for it. Oh, this shadow just makes any eye look so much more elevated. You gotta be careful though, because it is kind of crumbly. So, you know, I have to use my fingers. Otherwise, I feel like it's gonna go everywhere. But the effect that it has, I think it's beautiful, stunning. And there's a reason it's in my top 5. I was actually really debating and looking over all the eyeshadow palettes. I'm like, is this really something that I want to put as my top 5? And it really is. It's that good. I think it's beautiful. Also, the shade Haphazard right here is such a beautiful shadow all over the lid. You could also put it over this Grunge cream black shadow. And I think it makes such a beautiful kind of smokier, grungy look. I love this palette. I definitely get a little bit more intense looks when I use this one, but I'm being selective of just using like 2 or 3 shades. I don't use too many because it definitely can become a little intense, but I think it's just such an incredible eyeshadow palette. Here, let me put a little bit more of that Haphazard shade to show you how intense it can be over the black cream. Just beautiful. I do feel like I skipped quite a lot of eyeshadow palettes in 2023. Again, I don't wear a ton of eyeshadow and I gravitate towards more neutral, boring palettes or some that have really beautiful sparkle toppers and kind of one and done shadows within the palette. Okay, moving on to number 4, and this was a splurge for me. It is the Tom Ford Eye Color Quad in Tropical Dusk. I love this palette so much. Let me take these little things out. It looks very boring, but it's a palette that I reach for over and over again. I love the mattes. I think they're beautiful. This pink one doesn't pull as pink as I wanted it in the beginning. It definitely has some like a warm pink in it, but it works. It's beautiful. I wore this a lot during summertime because I guess it was released during summertime, but I really have loved this. This kind of topper shade, it is so beautiful. It's that elegant, smoky, soft, golden goddess kind of vibe. And this shade right here, this may look a little bit more bronzy on my finger, but when I swatch it, it definitely has that peachiness in it. And then the topper probably won't show up well in the swatch right here, but it's so refined. It's beautiful. It has enough base to it, that bronziness, where it's not just a simple topper that you need something underneath for it to show up. It's beautiful on its own. Here we have the deep brown, which is incredible. It's buildable, so you can really shear it out and put it in the crease, or you can build it up quite a lot. And that is the more pinkyish shade that's pulling a little bit more warm brown. I just love this palette. It's, I think, the only Tom Ford eyeshadow palette that I purchased in 2023. I'm very particular with picking up eyeshadow palettes from Tom Ford just because they're so expensive. And I do have a good amount here and I only reach for 1 or 2. And this color scheme I knew I would reach for over and over again, and I'm glad I did because it has been very well loved. So this is my number 4 eyeshadow palette. Moving on to number 3, and that goes to Natasha Denona, I Need a Nude eyeshadow palette. Now this could have been 1 or 2, but I've just decided to put it here because the other ones I've used more of. This is such an incredible eyeshadow palette. It's one that I've been wanting Natasha Denona to come out with over and over again. I have here the Yucca palette. This didn't make it just because of the shadows. The quality is incredible. But these shadows, they're so beautiful. They're definitely more on the cooler side, more taupey, and I've been reaching for that a lot more this year rather than warm tones. But to me, this is like that perfect eyeshadow palette. You have some depth, you have lighter shades, you have different cream to powder, you have mattes, you have the shimmers that are toppers. I think she introduced different shimmer toppers as well in this palette, and I think they're so beautiful. The shade Delilah, look at that. Oh. And then Mia, just, they're all incredible. There's not one dud in this palette. Kind of maybe boring for some people because it's not a ton of color, but this is what I wear. And I think she did an incredible job with this. Also, this shade Filigree, look at that shade. Oh, that just all over the lid. It's so beautiful. So yeah, this had to be in my top 5 without a doubt. It was just more like, okay, do we put it at number 1? Do we put it number 2, 3? The reason I think it's not number 1 is because my number 1 is a quad, and I just tend to reach for quads more than a bigger eyeshadow palette. But this is probably my favorite bigger eyeshadow palette that I own. I think it is so well thought out, beautiful formulas, pigmented, but also buildable. And I love the looks I create with this. And I'm such a sucker for these toppers, sparkles, lighter shades, and taupey that this just had my name all over it. I adore this palette. I think she did an incredible job. I love this. I love the transition shades. You have brightness, you have depth, just everything. It's a perfect palette. I think is it my favorite Natasha Denona palette? Probably. I'm still a sucker for this one, Biba palette. I think this will maybe always be my number 1. It's so beat up. I don't know. I feel like her formula has improved, honestly, from the Biba to this new one. I think this is more innovative. So I kind of feel like this is overtaking my Biba just because the formula of the shimmers is just better, to be honest. But this is obviously very well loved. Moving on to number 2, and this kind of took me by surprise. It was another one that I postponed purchasing because it just seemed, to be honest, boring. But this is my Danessa Myricks Groundwork Neutrals. Oh, I have fallen in love with this eyeshadow palette since I've tried it a few months ago, and I was hesitant to put this in my eyeshadow palette just because it's such a versatile palette, and I truly use it as my cheek contours, even bronzer sometimes, even eyeshadows to contour my lips. It's just so versatile, but I would say 80% I use it for my eyes. You get these kind of putty-like creams here, and then the powder next to it. My main attraction with this palette is the cream section. It is so good. It's not too pigmented. It's not too waxy or creamy. It's a little stiffer than some of other cream eyeshadows, but because of that, it is so versatile. The liners stay on forever. The eyebrows stay on amazingly, and the tones. You can do so many things with this. I don't know if it's the makeup artist in me that is so attracted with all these undertones. You have a little bit of green undertone, gray in there. You have more cool tone, warm, a little bit more warmth, a lot of warmth. It's just an all-in-one eyeshadow palette, and it has been used so much. I cannot put this down. I would say out of everything, this is my most used eyeshadow palette since I purchased it, because just the options that I get. If I need to fix something real quick, I'll just reach for this one. If I don't know what to do or I don't feel like doing a ton, I'll reach for this one. If I want a smoky look, I can also reach for this one. So if you ask me if I choose between Patrick Ta and Danessa Myricks, I will absolutely use Danessa Myricks. I think it's more versatile, more unique. You get a lot more within this, and it's beautiful. Also, one of you guys told me that she will have refillables. Thank you, because I was like, okay, I'm really going through Chiseled a lot, and Mirage, these two, actually all these three have been used so much that I'm like, I'm gonna hit pan way ahead of the other ones, and to be able to just change it, it's amazing. So this is my number 2 palette. I was about to say number 1 palette. Love it. Incredible quality, very creative, and something new on the market. The packaging is also really, really, really beautiful. I think it's very luxurious. And if I need to travel somewhere, I can really take this for most of my base products. Obviously not foundation, but like contour, bronzer. If I push it, even blush. I don't love using it for a blush, honestly. I have to mix this one with a lighter one to light it up, or this one. I don't love it for a blush, but I love it for brows, eyes, contour, blush, even lip. I can make this work for lip as well. So this is not my number 2, and I think it's fabulous. And my number 1 has to go to the new YSL Mini Clutch eyeshadows. I have 3. This is in 400. This is my last purchase. I've used in a couple videos. Then we have the 300, and this is the one I've used most out of all of them. It's very basic. That's probably why. And then the 100, which I think is the most popular one. I've used this a lot as well. But for some reason on me, I really like the 300. This one, the 100, it looks a little bit more sophisticated. It's almost like I've worked a little harder than I really did. And sometimes I just want something in my crease and barely something, you know, to where like people don't even know if I'm wearing something on my eyes or not. It just looks a little bit more contoured. And that's why I reach a lot for the 300. But this formula really took me by surprise. I know it was released a while back and I didn't purchase them. They took them off the market because they had some issues with the pants falling out. And so they brought them back, and that's when I purchased these. It hasn't even been that long. It was in September, I think, when I purchased my first one, and I have used them over and over and over again. I have never swatched or felt a smoother matte ever in my entire life. This is like silk. Even the toppers, they feel almost wet, and they are a little, I wouldn't say crumbly, but you have to be careful not to push too hard on it because it does make a big old mess, right? But when I put it on my eyes, I don't have that issue because it almost like feels like they have oils in them. They probably do. I should read about that. Yeah, it's such an interesting formula, and look how shiny that is. So for me, these have to be my number 1 in 2023 release, and just what I've tried. Took me by surprise, truly. I tested out the Clé de Peau eyeshadows as well. I didn't purchase it, but I played with it in store. And even though I liked them, they were $115, I think, for 4. These are around the $60 mark. And I like these better. I thought they were smoother. I thought that the shimmers are a little bit more impactful. And just overall, I like these, so I decided not to purchase that and just enjoy these beautiful eyeshadows. I also really like the compact. I think it's really sleek. It's small. It looks very bougie, and it just feels very luxurious. So these have to be my number 1 most used and loved this year. Even though I haven't had them all year long, I feel like I've gotten my money's worth, and I've used them so much that they absolutely are worth their number 1. And looking back through all my videos, I really haven't tried a ton of new eyeshadow palettes that I truly, truly loved. But at the end of the year, these last 3-4 months, a lot of releases came out, and those are the eyeshadow palettes that I've actually enjoyed most in 2023. I've also loved, you know, the Esom eyeshadow palette release. I think that they did such an incredible job, but it's not something that I use every single day, right? Because it's all these colorful shadows. I'm boring, guys. What can I say? And I reached so much for single shadows, like pot cream shadows. It's just what I like. A little bit of a liner, smudge it, you know, make it messy, and that's about it. I am quite boring, but do not worry. We have concealers coming up, and I feel like that took over 2023. But I have to admit that some of these eyeshadow palettes are going to be all-time favorite, right? They're going to take my top 5 of all time, and I'm really enjoying them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I would love to know what your top maybe 2 eyeshadow palettes in 2023 were, what you've used, what you've loved. I am just super nosy and I want to know what people are using and loving. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.